Welcome back to the garage here at Basin Motorsports. Today I'm going to show you quickly how to do a drain and fill on a C5 Corvette with a manual transmission. So we are going to work on a manual transmission. Now it is recommended to be changed every 60,000 miles or 48 months. The transmission I have here in my C5 Corvette is just at 61,000 miles, which is a great time to be able to do this. Now just note that the manual transmission, you see the 2004 and earlier, is Dexron 3 transmission fluid is what you're going to change. So now what you see here is the C5 Corvette, the 5th generation from 97 to 2004. It is currently up on jack stands. Now if you don't know how to put a Corvette like this up on stands, I have a video up here in the top screen that will give you a link to another video showing you where to support it at and how to lift it safely. So with the Corvette now up on the jack stand and supported correctly, these are the two plugs we need to worry about. On the passenger side, on the lower edge, you can see there is a plug there that uses just an extension for a 3/8 ratchet. Now right above it, it does say drain on the case, so you know that this is going to be your fluid drain for the transmission fluid coming out. And on the driver's side of the car, one thing you'll note is the case does say to use Dexron 3 automatic transmission fluid only, just in case you didn't have a manual to identify that. And you're also going to see where it says fill. Now the fill plug is this sensor here, so we will need to unplug this sensor off and then take out this plug here with just a simple wrench. Once we take this out, we'll know that we can then drain it. So make sure you can take your fill plug out first, because if you drain it, you can't refill it unless this comes out. So check that this either loosens or comes out, then you can do the process of draining your fluid. Now with the plug loose, you can either choose to take it out or just leave it threaded in slightly. At least you know where it is. And then you can then pull out the plug for the drain. Now again, drain plug there is just going to use a 3/8 driver, so you can just use a extension and your driver to loosen it up. And once you pull out this plug, be ready because your fluid's coming out. As you notice, the transmission color has turned to what I'm going to call a chocolatey brown, which means it is definitely needed to be replaced. It should be kind of a red, but I don't see any shavings or anything on the plug, which is great. So we're going to let this drain. Now, if you are working on a cold car, you may want to drive this around the block before you put it up on stands. Or you can always put it on stands and run the car for a minute or two just to get the transmission warmed up in gear. Now, if you're not worried about time too much, you can just go ahead and drain it out and just allow it to run for a few minutes, as long as you can get all the fluid out. Drain it as long as possible until you really get everything out. That way you don't have to worry about it. And it could take 10 minutes, it could take 30 minutes. Just kind of depends, but just let it drain until it's done. Okay, once it has stopped dripping out of there, you can go ahead and put your plug back in. Now, this needs to be tightened to 20 foot-pounds, so don't go crazy on it, because this is an aluminum housing and it does have sealant on it. So get it to 20, or I always say just the nice and good and tight. Make sure you clean around the area, that way you can detect if there's a leak later on. But otherwise, once you're cleaned and you're satisfied with that, either you can wipe it down, spray it off, whatever you're going to do, then you can worry about going to the driver's side on the other side and worry about filling it. Going back in the transmission, it's going to require up to 4.1 quarts. So I have here 4 initially to start with of AMSOIL's Easy Pack. This is 100% synthetic automatic transmission fluid. This is Dex 3 or Dexcon 3 equivalent, which is going to be easy to do. Now these flex packs, a lot easier to get in there than a bottle or anything else. So I've already got the tops cut, I've already got them opened up. Now I just need to fish them up in there, take off the cap, and fill it up. All right, you can see the last little bit of the transmission fluid dripping out of the fill hole, and that clearly was less than 4 quarts. So I think if you just buy 4 quarts of the transmission brand you'd like to use, you're definitely going to use less than that. Now I'm just going to let this finish out dripping. I will then put the plug in, the sensor, tighten it back down. Again, it's to 20 foot-pounds or just good and tight. Remember, it's aluminum, so you don't have to over tighten it. Get it nice and snug, plug the sensor back in, and then clean the area to make sure you're not going to miss any drips or any leaks later on. That way you know for sure. So once the job's done and everything's cleaned up, you can then put the tires back on if you have them off. Go ahead and drop the car down, and you might want to take it for a drive. If you need to do other work and you need to leave it on the jack stands, you can go ahead and start it, kind of run it through the gears, make sure everything feels right, and it should feel a little bit smoother. The new fluid should give it a better feel. Now, one thing to note on these flex packs is that because the transmission is really tight in there into the body, you're not going to get all of the fluid out of each pack. I only used approximately 3, maybe 3 1/3, somewhere in there of the fluid, but I used 4 of the packs because I can't get all the fluid out. So what I would suggest is that you buy 4 of those, add all the fluid in until it starts to spill out the fill hole, and then once you're done, take one of the flex bags and then use all the other ones that still have a little bit of residue, pour it back into one bag. That way you have at least some fluid left over, and you bought it, so you might as well keep it. So pour any residual out of all the extra bags into just one, and you'll probably find that you have, half to somewhere in the 3/4 range of a quart left, and your transmission will be full. So that's it for this time. If you guys have any questions on any of this process or what I've bought, where I bought it, or anything else, be sure to check the description down below. I'll put links down to any tools I used or anything else. And that's it for this time from Basin Motorsports. We'll see you next time.